There it is, the Yamazaki distillery. I am excited. Behind me is historic Spirit Still number 4 with the Suntory coat of arms. Welcome to Kanpai Planet, I'm Mac, and today I'm at the Yamazaki distillery, about to try the Yamazaki 12, one of the standard bottlings in the Yamazaki core range. But leading up to that, I'm also going to taste some of the component whiskies which go into the Yamazaki 12. And those are liquid aged in American White Oak Puncheons, Japanese Misanada casks, and Spanish oak. The Yamazaki distillery was founded in 1923 and the first distillate rolled off the stills in 1924. It's located in between Kyoto and Osaka in this historically important part of Japan. Let's start with the American White Oak Puncheon liquid and check out the color. Oh, that is a lovely, light, bright gold on the nose. Okay, it goes without saying, first off, that there's a lot of vanilla in that nose. A bit of spice as well. A bit of clove. There's a little bit more sweetness as you keep nosing the dram. So alongside the vanilla, a bit of toffee and fudge. But yeah, quite spicy as well. There's this aroma of apple and La France pear, and a little bit astringent. There's a kind of grassy hay note here as well on the nose. Kanpai. Okay, that's quite interesting. First up, what's hitting me is some of that astringency and bitterness, but then that goes and you're left with a lot of sweetness. Really, really interesting how that palate, at least when it initially hits you, is much, much heavier than you would expect from the nose. Some parts of it I wouldn't really have expected from this component. It is quite oaky, quite woody. I mean, you know, it has been aged in oak. It's also a little bit oily and waxy on the mouthfeel as well. And the finish is medium. It's also a little bit drying. Not a bad dram, but it's not wowing me. By the way, in between drams, I'm cleansing my palate with some water which comes from the Yamazaki water source. Free refills available. So let's move on to the Misanada component. I'm very excited about that. Japanese oak, very difficult to work with. Trees are typically over 300 years old before they're felled and used to make barrels. And it's really that long-aged Misanada that delivers the rather cliche, but nonetheless true smell of a Japanese temple. So let's check out the color. It's this very light, bright color, very similar to the American White Oak component. Okay, so if you've tried Misanada cast liquid before, then you know that this is well on the way to becoming some truly fantastic long-aged Misanada. Suntory have been releasing recently those 18-year bottles of Yamazaki Misanada, one for the 100th anniversary and another for the Tsukuriwaka 2024 collection. Wow, this is one you could just keep nosing actually. A little bit of coconut on the nose. And this like depth, like also some vanilla there. Wow. A bit of sandalwood, a little bit of peach as well, like a peach melba. Bit of apple pie. I'm clearly responding to this component much more than I did the previous American White Oak Puncheon. This is a really fantastic nose. There's this light citrus note as well. Bit of lemon, a bit of yuzu actually, so a bit sweeter I think than the lemon. Let's check out what this 12-year tastes like. Kanpai. Gotta say, preferring the nose to the palate on this one, but more of that Misanada spice character is coming through on the palate. Yeah, those kind of sharp notes that you can get with, you know, the younger aged Misanada are there. There's kind of caramel flavor there, and this kind of milkiness, like lactose note, which is really interesting. a bit of white pepper. It's also reminding me, rather weirdly, a bit of an Islay whiskey. There's almost a bit of brine and salinity there as well. I think that saline type character keeps me coming back for more on this one. The finish, as you would expect from the Misanada, is long, and it's long and lingering. Wow, good. My favorite so far, you know, of the two I've tried. You can understand from drinking this 12-year what they say about the longer age Misanada. Just, it's so great, but it could just do with sort of a little bit of more mellowing out. Nonetheless, I would take this, I've got to say. So, time to move on to the Spanish oak liquid. Let's check out the color. Wow, that is beautiful. This deep, reddy brown matches nicely with the color of the wood of the washback behind me. On the nose. Ooh, wow, this is what sherry liquid should be, really, at least on the nose. I've gone straight to the palate there because I'm so excited to actually try it. Okay. The nose was absolutely fantastic, kind of the perfect sherry nose. There's some cigar, there's some leather, there's some coffee. You know, fairly standard sherry cask aged notes. But that doesn't mean they're not wonderful. The palate, I mean, as you would expect, a little bit tannic, a little bit bitter, and those characteristic sherry notes. I mean, this is a solid sherry dram. It doesn't quite have the depth of some of the sherry cask releases that they've done from the Yamazaki distillery over the years. Getting a bit of spice as well, some cardamom, a bit of cinnamon. Yeah, there's a sharpness there. The nose would suggest that this was maybe mellower sherry cask aged liquid, but the palate thinks differently, as it were. Finish here, medium long. Quite nice, actually. On the end of the finish, you're getting more of those berry notes that you get in many sherry drams. Yeah, really nice, like raspberry and blueberry there at the end of the finish. That nose, though, wow. Not bad. So those are three components. Now we're going to see what Suntory's 5th generation chief blender, Shinji Fukuyo, has done when combining these into the core range Yamazaki 12. Now, these components have been bottled at 50% ABV, as opposed to the 43% ABV, which is typical across the Suntory core range, Yamazaki, Hakushu, Chita, and their blended Hibiki whiskies. Checking out the color here. Yeah, as to be expected, it's like the weighted average of the three components. It's somewhere between the depth and darkness of that sherry cask liquid and then the lighter color of the other two. Yamazaki 12, of course, a much loved, very popular dram. On the nose. Okay, we're getting a lot of citrus there. More on the orange side of things. Orange peel, you know this is going to be a multifaceted dram. The Misanada component is going to be the chief reason for that. I think some of the yuzu that the Mizunara cask brings kind of combines with some of that depth of sweetness that the sherry cask brings to create this kind of chocolate orange on the nose. Again, getting some of those spices that we saw in some of the other components, kind of the clove and the cardamom and the cinnamon. That coconut is there. I think it's time to go on the palate. Kanpai. Ooh, yeah, interesting. Mizunara component initially quite dominant, and then yeah, that's dying down, and then you're getting a lot of that sweetness come out. Sort of ice cream notes now that, you know, you could see in some of the components I tried as well. It's a heavy dram, it's a weighty dram. You can see where that comes from the sherry and the Misanada. And you would have thought that the American white oak component might be there to kind of balance things and make it a little bit lighter, but at least this one that I tried today, I think also contributes to that kind of meatiness, bit of chewiness, bit of heaviness. A little bit tannic there. but not so much that there's an overwhelming bitterness. And whiskey cliches aside, every time you kind of attack it, you're getting something different. So getting something peaked, and you get, again, kind of those spices are there at the start, and then nice bit of sweetness, and it's there. Wow. Lovely. When all is said and done, this is a medium long finish here. The Yamazaki 12 is a solid dram, and it's a good introduction to Japanese whiskey if you can't step up to the Yamazaki 18, which I consider to be a world-class dram. Trying these has also helped me understand other releases within the Yamazaki core range. For example, the Yamazaki Distillers Reserve, that ex-red wine, ex-French oak liquid, I think maybe diminishes that product a little bit. I'm not a particular fan of that one. This is a big step up from that. This is a much more balanced dram. And I can understand now why the Yamazaki 18 is so fantastic, because allowing that Misanada to mature even further, another 6 years. Wow. That's why that is a world-class dram. What's the verdict? A really great opportunity to explore some of the components that make up one of the most renowned and most famous core releases in Japanese whiskey, the Yamazaki 12. Which one did I like the best? I would have to say I thought the Misanada was absolutely fantastic, but as you can tell from my reaction, you know, the nose and the palates of the various drams all had varying merits, and they all lead up to contributing to the Yamazaki 12. I think the Misanada component can go head to head with the Yamazaki 12 itself. Suntory, if you're listening, let's make it happen. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the taste of Yamazaki. Until next time, Kanpai.